And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hi there, I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook on this Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. And this forecast will cover the midweek period Wednesday into Thursday. We've had, as of this Tuesday morning, wave of low pressure and colder air cross the southeast corner of the Bering and the Alaska Peninsula, now pushing into the North Pacific. As I was mentioning the past few days, we just have this general circulation in the mid-levels of the atmosphere over the Gulf and North Pacific. And that feature is just going to prevail now through the upcoming weekend into at least next week, early next week. And there are going to be a couple other impulses of some colder air and weaker lows, waves of low pressure that rotate through from out of the central northern Bering and then again across the Alaska Peninsula. Next one, Wednesday, is going to impact the Pribilofs with some snow showers. We find along the Gulf Coast Wednesday morning areas of IFR remaining, especially intercoastal mountains here in the Panhandle, out around above Wrangell and Hyder, and then up here toward Prince William Sound, the eastern Kenai. Also IFR conditions up through areas of the eastern interior and along the Alaska Range. For Wednesday afternoon, we find still persistent IFR conditions along the northern northeastern Gulf Coast, especially surrounding Prince William Sound eastward through Yakutat Bay and extending up into the northern Panhandle. Otherwise, widespread MVFR conditions across the Gulf, up along the Brooks Range, North Slope, Arctic Coast, and then areas along the Alaska Range, Talkeetna Mountains, Wrangell, St. Elias Mountains as well. Trailing out the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians, widespread MVFR. Thursday morning, we are looking at IFR conditions still along areas of the northern northeastern Gulf Coast up into the northern Panhandle, along central and down through the west arm of the Alaska Range. Up here, east slope of the Brooks Range and along and north of the Yukon River, Yukon Flats, as well as areas out along the western interior as you get just a bit southeast of Kotzebue, Buckland, that area, and tipping toward the middle Yukon, and then up along areas of the Arctic coast, rather widespread IFR conditions, as well as out to the west through the central and western Aleutians. And then Thursday afternoon, we're looking still for some holding on pockets of IFR, western Prince William Sound, the eastern Kenai, along the west central arm here of the Alaska Range, and then just southwest of the western and central Aleutians. Past conditions up here across areas of the eastern half of the Brooks Range. IFR early Wednesday morning, becoming MVFR at Anatuvik, as well as Adigan Pass. It's just some IFR conditions early in the day giving way to MVFR. Same thing down along the west arm of the Alaska Range. Lake Clark and Merrill seeing some IFR conditions early, giving way to MVFR. Same thing for Rainy Pass, IFR becoming MVFR. Windy Pass should generally be MVFR on Wednesday throughout the day. Isabel could see IFR conditions early, giving way to MVFR, and then further east, Mentasta Pass, MVFR becoming VFR through the pass, but there could be some lingering areas of MVFR south of there as you go down into the Copper River Basin. Tanita Pass, IFR conditions becoming MVFR, and Portage Pass will generally hold on to those IFR conditions, especially there eastward into Prince William Sound, the northern Gulf Coast. And then far northern Panhandle also seeing IFR conditions holding there at Chilkoot and White. And looking at freezing levels, the surface freezing line is going to still be south of the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island, and then coming back up along the Gulf Coast in through the inner channels there of the Panhandle. There are no real big warm domes of air in the mid-upper levels of the atmosphere behind me. There is, with a frontal system in low further south and west of the Aleutians, freezing levels do come upwards of 2, 4, 6, 8,000 feet, but nothing of note here across the mainland. Still a relatively cool regime. The coldest temperatures are going to be here across the northwest mainland, down along areas of the west coast, and we're going to see another shot of cold air come down and push all the way toward the Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula over the weekend. That's going to help spin up a larger, broader low pressure system here for later in the weekend, Saturday into Sunday. So that's something we'll be watching as we get a little closer. In the meantime, Wednesday, some pockets of moderate icing possible in the interior. West arm of the Alaska Range, perhaps near and just west of Yakutat Bay, Cape Suckling. Generally above 4,000 feet, you'd encounter that icing in any of the clouds. And then here, back out across the southeast Bering, especially just east of the Pribilovs and pushing down in across the Alaska Peninsula, we have this general northwest flow pulling another weak low pressure wave that'll have some snow showers or mixed rain and snow showers dropping southeastward during the day on Wednesday. And looking at the upper level jet stream winds, strongest winds are going to be, there's a jet core 125 knots in the North Pacific coming up toward Vancouver Island. But otherwise, we have to go way out to the west. Generally, northerly flow coming off the Asian continent and crossing the central Bering. And also out across the eastern central Aleutians, there is a wind max south of there in the North Pacific over 90 knots. And then as we look at 9,000 feet or 700 millibars, mid-levels of the atmosphere, we have the broader circulation I've been talking about here, Gulf North Pacific. We have another cold pocket air and circulation up here over the Chukchi Sea. That's what's helping to feed these pieces of energy with some colder air coming southward across the Bering. So most notably, we do have some southerly winds here, western Brooks Range, upwards of 35 knots. Some southwesterly winds coming up toward the Alaska Range, as high as locally maybe 50 knots, passing at 10,000, 9,000 feet there around Isabel Pass. And then down here across the far eastern Aleutians, winds upwards of 35, 40 knots. As we bring things down further toward the surface, 3,000 feet, there's that low circulation over the lower southwestern Gulf, North Pacific, and it does bring some southeast to southerly flow of air along. There's a couple of different boundaries that are just going to rotate northward, so 30 to maybe as high as 40 knots as you get down there toward Dixon Entrance and as Haida Gwaii, but back to the west across the lower Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, perhaps some northwest winds up to 30 knots. So the greatest threat for any turbulence on Wednesday will be along areas of the northeastern Gulf Coast to the outer areas of the Panhandle. Surface to 5,000 feet, there could be some moderate turbulence. And then back here with the northwest flow and that little system rotating through, we're looking at the potential for moderate turbulence there across the lower half of the Alaska Peninsula and far eastern Aleutians, surface to 4,000 feet on Wednesday.